So for step 4, the propeller shaft, well, you can see that we're going to grab our other propeller joint and then put in a couple of bearings and the GB2 bevel pinion gear. And then we have to connect both that and what we did in step 3 to the propeller shaft. And again, we're replacing all that with the hop-up item, which is the propeller shaft itself, which is awesome. And then, of course, we've got the other propeller joint that's the aluminum hop-up as well. And, of course, there's our bearings and the gear. So I'll set this up and let's put this together. So first off, let's grab the other propeller joint, which here we go. And then we've got 2 bearings. And I am not greasing this up. I typically with ball bearings don't do that. If this was the plastic bushings, I would. With the ball bearings, I'm not going to. And then you can see that the other one is going to sit there. And then you can see that that gear is going to sit just like that. So, and when you push it, you can actually feel it kind of pop into place a bit. But ultimately, that is what it's going to look like. So if I put that aside for a second, you'll notice that the propeller joints actually came with an O-ring. And I'm going to stick it in at this point because it's designed so that the shaft itself doesn't have too much play, because it's going to move inside, and you'll see later on how that's going to be. But for now, I actually think I'm going to stick this into here. And the easiest way to actually get it down is to grab our propeller shaft now. We can open this. And I'm going to take the shaft and make sure that that O-ring is going in there properly. There we go. So I'm just going to grab that and push. You can see it going down and it'll be nicely in the right spot. So that's going to provide a bit of cushioning, because otherwise you're going to see that this actually is going to move and there'll be a lot of flop. You don't want that, which is why we're going to put the O-ring there. And I might even put an O-ring on the other side, even though the kit, the joints didn't come with one. I have another one, so I have a spare, which I might do just so that we don't have as much slop, I guess you could say. So if we look at this again and see how this is going to be, we're replacing the big plastic one with our aluminum propeller joint, and honestly, it's as simple as that. That is what this step 4 looks like after you've put all the pieces together. So fairly simple, and I really like the blue anyway. That's pretty cool. So that is step 4. So for step 5, attaching the propeller shaft. Well, in this step, we're going to put everything in steps 3 and 4 that we put together into the chassis, which I have right there. And then there's these 2 pieces right here. One goes below and one goes above, which is actually going to hold the whole drivetrain in place on this side. And there are the 2 screws that we need. Now there is the spare O-ring that I was talking about, where I believe I'm going to end up putting it into the other side. But let's put it into the chassis first, and then we can see if there's any slop with the drivetrain. So let's grab the chassis first, and you can see that the spur gear is sitting at the back because that's the motor mounting area, which is just like that. So there is our chassis. So if we grab our propeller joint, spur gear, and propeller shaft itself, we're going to need to slip that into the back, slip that into the front, just like that. So it is in place. Now, as I said before, I wanted to see how much slop there was going to be. Notice that the drive shaft can move back and forth. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, but we don't want too much movement in there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an O-ring into this side as well now. So if I put that in place, whoop, let's make sure that that's going to sit correctly. I will use the propeller shaft to push down on it, get it into place. There we go. It's pretty much at the end, as you can see. So again, now let's put this back again, where we'll sit one side there and one side in there. So that is definitely more, there's a bit of movement, but not too much now. So there's not going to be too much play, and it won't be that much slop either. So that's great. So I'm happy with that. So now all we're going to have to do is put this piece down, which is sitting like that. So in fact, that's got to be pulled up, put that down, put that back on. And then this piece here is going to sit just like that over top of this, but also over top of the bearing. So you can see, if we take that off again, how that looks. This is going to sit just like that. And then we can screw this down. So if we take one of the screws, and these are the tapping screws. So I'm just going to get it started, and the same thing with the other side. Make sure that that is feeling right, which it is. So we can, whoops, I forget that that side's not attached. So let's just slide that back in again. And we'll do it this way. I'll hold the drive shaft that way because this is easier to screw it in if you've got some leverage, because I've got my other hand holding the back. There we go. So that's nicely in place. So ultimately, step 5, you should have it looking like that. Now, what's nice about replacing all of the plastic parts with these aluminum pieces is, look at how bulky the original drive shaft is. It's just like a plastic thing, which probably isn't even that well balanced. And of course, there's your joints that we would use if we were using the standard shaft that comes in the kit. But this, to me, is going to be a lot smoother, a lot more balanced, and it just feels really nice. So that's it for step 5. So we can now move on to step 6 and put together the differential gear.